Wow, I feel like I've learned a lot from the Detroit Lions recently. I mean, it's just been crazy. First thing I should probably take a second to talk about is the fact that I only record these gameplays for these videos once, and I'll just tell you, if you're actually paying attention to the gameplay and not just listening to me, wow, I get so unlucky in this one, and I'm not gonna lie, I get whooped, I get beat terribly. But this is the one gameplay I did for him, so there it is. Sorry if you feel bad. Also, I feel like I learned a lot about this Detroit Lions team. Before I came into this video, I probably felt a lot more confident about the team, um, being able to come together and put some wins together because just purely because of my confidence in Matt Stafford. Now, I still do think adding Matt Stafford back to this team, especially playing a full 16 games, helps them out tremendously. Maybe even wins them an extra game or two each season rather than having just a nobody at quarterback. But yeah, this roster still lacking behind. But let's get into it. I'm really excited. First thing I say is just because I got to watch Matt Stafford throw some footballs from last season, and he throws such a nice ball. And then it was funny comparing it. You would see the big plays that Stafford would have as compared to the other quarterbacks who would come in, and it would just be like, wow, that's actually a good ball. The receiver was able to make a play because of where the pass was, as opposed to, wow, the receiver had to make a heck of a play because of how poorly placed that ball was. Just something you get with better quarterbacks. That's nice. Amendola is important to this team. He's going to be a slot receiver because you're obviously going to have Marvin Jones and Kenny Galladay as your other two guys. So Amendola will be the guy in the slot. And just because of those other two names, big names, I almost kind of forget about him. But he's still very important to this team and noteworthy. Uh, Jamal Agnew is a really good returner. He's able to the first kickoff return he had, I was like, okay, this is pretty decent. And then I saw the punt return he had for a touchdown too, and I was like, okay, this guy's the real deal. He's one of the. I'm guessing he's going to continue to be a good returner in the NFL, so it's a good player to have on your team. I love watching Justin Coleman play football. Used to not really recognize him when I'm pretty sure he came over from Seattle. Please don't ruin me if I'm wrong. But I'm pretty sure he came over from Seattle a year or a few years back. And ever since then, I've actually started like paying attention to him. He's a really good football player. I love watching him. I feel really bad about the Chiefs game earlier in the season with the scoop and score. They were going in for a touchdown there, and I just hate whenever teams get like touchdowns like that, and it's like everybody's looking around thinking the play's dead, and then one guy runs away with the football, and it's like just because of those plays that are 1 in 1,000, it actually ends up being more like a guy will let go of the football after he's been tackled, and then some guy on the defense will try to run it back when he was obviously down. Not in this situation though. It actually was a fumble. And it just sucks because the Lions were 2-0-1 at that point and had a chance to, in quotation marks, continue to be undefeated if they beat the Chiefs there. So, yeah. Galladay is one of the best red zone threats in the game. The other thing I say about Galladay on this list is he's just got amazing feet. Love talking about feet when you're talking about a guy who catches a ball. No matter how hard the catch is to make, he is not only able to look the ball in and catch it with his hands over a defender, but he's also able to toe tap on the sideline perfectly. All of these things at once are just incredibly impressive. And there you go. You see the score is already 16-0 Bears in this game. So, yeah. This team with Stafford was sitting at 2-2-1 when they should have been 4-0-1 with Stafford. Oh, why was that? that's because of the Chiefs game, because the Chiefs got basically that stupid touchdown and they won by either a touchdown or less. And then who did they play? Just checked it. It was the Packers, and I remember that game because that was a Monday night game, so I actually got to sit down and watch the whole thing. It was unfolding, and I remember the Lions were playing a great game, and Aaron Rodgers did have a decent comeback going in the game, but I think the Lions got screwed on two like illegal hands to the face penalties, if I remember correctly, and they just basically lost them the game, even though they had it in the bag. Those penalties that shouldn't have even been called lost them the game, and that sucked. Next up, what do we got next? Oh, and they would have been at 4-0-1 with Stafford 5 games into the season, and in quotations, undefeated 5 games in because of the tie. Marvin Jones Jr. against Minnesota hits a nasty spin move, and then goes into the end zone. It's just amazing to see spin moves. I don't know. You always think of that Braxton Miller one from him at Ohio State, but just thinking about a spin move, you don't actually see it in game executed that often, and when you see it, you just gotta point it out and be like, nice. And then this Marvin Hall guy on the team they also have is a heck of a deep threat for a wide receiver. They got Stafford, cannon of an arm, with Galladay and Jones Jr., who neither of them are really slouches in terms of being able to get the ball down the field. But then you add this Marvin Hall guy, they could really stretch the field with that ability. Marvin Jones also scored 4 touchdowns in one game against Minnesota this season. Losing effort, but, I mean, 4 touchdowns in a game is already impressive. It's even more impressive when you caught all 4 of those touchdown passes. I just can't believe that didn't even get more. I feel like even the week it happened, like, I don't remember seeing anybody covering that. Like, wow, Marvin Jones scored 4 touchdowns today, all receiving. I don't remember seeing it. I feel like I saw it a few weeks later when I was looking back at fantasy games, and I didn't have Marvin Jones, but one of the guys I was going up against probably in, like, if this was a week 6 game, then week 8 had him, and then I looked back on his previous 2 games, and I saw that he had 4 touchdowns in a game, and I was like, what? I just can't believe that no one said anything about that. It's a crazy accomplishment. Props to Marvin Jones. So this team should have been 5-2-1. They do drop to Minnesota, and they lose to the Raiders, which, if everything went in their favor, they should have been 5-2-1 headed into the midseason mark with a healthy Stafford. But instead, they had those 2 games that went against them, and they were sitting at a 3-4-1 headed into the mid-season mark, and they don't win a game from there on out. Stafford isn't here. This team doesn't have a chance, especially with the quarterbacks they were throwing in there, so that was tough. But then again, even with Stafford, they lost to the Raiders straight up, which, if you watched my Raiders video, my friend told me I actually gave him a lot of praise in that video, and then like turned around and surprised a lot of people by predicting such a bad record for them. I do like some areas of their team, but I don't think they're a good team overall, and I don't think they're going to win a lot of games. So they lost to the Raiders. I mean, with Stafford, that's not anything to be too proud of. They were right in it at the end, but that's not a good team, and playing at the level of a bad team is something good teams shouldn't do. However, we got teams like Seattle who do it all the time, so who knows? Who knows anything, honestly? This team last season with Stafford throughout the whole thing is obviously a completely different story. Slay was very good last year. Darius Slay was very good last year, but I wouldn't be too worried swapping in one elite corner with another, and by that I mean the Desmond Trufant replacement. Basically switches them up. Uh, and then I'm laughing at this Kenny Galladay thing I mentioned earlier with Kenny Galladay worked so hard to get open on so many routes when Stafford was injured, so the other quarterbacks were in. And he would work so hard to get open, and then the quarterbacks would make it so much harder on him to catch the pass because they would never lead him into open space, but just like throw like a rubber ducky that he had to go up and catch over a defender. And it's just awful. I mean, it got to just drill it into the ground. Stafford makes this team completely different, and that's the last time I'll say it. Some stats that interest me from last season. Kerryon Johnson was the leading rusher with 403 yards. They need to get more yards on the ground with someone. Somebody needs to be a threat in the rushing game. Best tight end was TJ Hawkinson, 367, and 2 touchdowns receptions. Also need to get a more scary threat in the receiving game. I think TJ Hawkinson can get better with some age, hopefully. Also, the other thing to mention here is that Kerryon Johnson and TJ Hawkinson missed time last season, so that is worth noting to say that they could have had better numbers had they not missed multiple games each. Justin Coleman had 3 forced fumbles, 13 passes defended, and 1 INT. Just thought I'd throw those in there to show people that Justin Coleman is a good player. If they really don't know that, he really is a good player. Top 3 tacklers on the team were all defensive backs. So I'm guessing they can't stop the run to save their life. That's not good. Tracy Walker was at the top of the team with 103 tackles. 103 tackles. And then 2 other defensive backs were behind him. I mean, that's just not good. Devon Kennard had 9 tackles for loss, and then Kennard and Trey Flowers had 7 sacks apiece. Trey Flowers also had 8 tackles for losses. The people that missed significant time due to injury for their team: Mike Daniels, Deshaun Hand, Kerryon Johnson, Hawkinson at the end of the season, Jermaine Kearse, and Matthew Stafford. Now, I did not realize, just like the Bears, I did not realize how much turnover this team had. They had so many guys move on, and so many new guys also come in. And these are just key guys. Once again, I'm not mentioning every name. But players they lost: Devon Kennard, Rick Wagner, Damon Harrison, Darius Slay, Logan Thomas, J.D. McKissick, Ashawn Robinson, Rashawn Melvin, Tavon Wilson, Graham Glasgow, Jeff Driscoll, Sam Martin, Mike Daniels, Jermaine Kearse. Those aren't even just like notable names. Those are like all important guys to this team, or at least most of them. I just couldn't believe all the names on here that are turning over. And then with players they added Reggie Ragland. Reggie Ragland, I think, has been like a tackle machine for the Chiefs. So hopefully he can help out in the run game. I'm pretty sure he's not much. He started with the Buffalo Bills, so I know a little bit about him, and I don't think he's very good in pass coverage, but I'm pretty sure he has been a tackle machine. So maybe he'll help them not make so many tackles in the secondary. Geronimo Allison added receiver. Darrell Roberts added. Desmond Trufant. Duron Harmon. My favorite thing about Duron Harmon is I swear he's just standing wherever he needs to be standing to be the guy that never makes the play for an interception to actually occur. Like, he's just always the guy that's standing nearby, and then another defender like whacks the ball out of the receiver's hands up into the air. And Duron Harmon is just the guy that's standing there to always be under the ball once it's batted straight into his arms. And he's like, oh yeah, I got an interception. And it's like, what the heck? Danny Shelton was added to the team, big guy in the middle. Jamie Collins, wow, he is a weird player. He did a little to, I don't want to say nothing. He did little in Cleveland, but then whenever he's been on New England, he's been schemed in well and playing well. They added a guy by the first name, it's so long, I'm just not even going to try to pronounce it. His first name starts with an H, his last name is Vaitai, and he's a guard. They added him. He's been in the league a little while now, And then they're going to have a new backup quarterback, Chase Daniel, who I think is a huge upgrade if Matt Stafford goes down with an injury. It's just this turnover, especially this season. I don't know. We didn't get much of an off season. We've obviously got training camps going on now, but without like any sort of off season, I'm really hesitant to say that a team that was already not too great overall is going to be much improved with how much changing is going on in this building. Now let's talk about some rookies. Jeff Okudah. He always plays tight man-to-man coverage. He's a true number one corner, and he's a great tackler too. Now, I'm just realizing, reading my notes back to myself, that it obviously is pretty strange to say true number one corner when earlier I said something about Desmond Trufant being the number one corner. I think for now, Desmond Trufant's going to be the number one corner. He's showed that he's a plenty good cornerback to be the number one corner. But, I mean, obviously you need two cornerbacks on the field at all times. Jeff Okudah will only improve with time, and he'll be good for years to come while Desmond Trufant is in the latter years of his career. Next, DeAndre Swift. His name is perfect for the description of him, honestly, because Swift. He is Swift. He is a quick, fairly fast running back that is able to cut and break in and out of what's it called? He's able to stop on a dime and not necessarily cut at like a 90-degree angle, but just stop and go really fast. Stop, little juke left, evades the defender perfectly. He's Swift. He's exactly what his last name is. I really liked that when he was coming in the draft. I couldn't believe how well his last name just fit him. Julian Okwara. This guy, I had heard the name, but I hadn't looked into him before this. And he's listed as a defensive end, but he's got to be more of he's going to be an edge player, obviously. But I'd list him more as an outside linebacker because he's got a great skill set where he could rush the passer or play coverage. There's multiple plays that I saw where he was in coverage and either got an interception or was able to come up and make a good tackle. So I really like him. I like the versatility there. That's a good player. And since Devon Kennard left the team, maybe that's who they're looking to replace. Kennard was a linebacker, so I don't know if Aquara's a linebacker. But pretty sure these guys are running a 3-4 scheme there. It's interesting. I think Aquara could replace Kennard. Potentially, it just depends how they throw the scheme together. Then they went for two mid-round, as in like rounds 3 to 5. They went with two guards in guys by the name of Jonah Jackson and Logan Stenberg. Once again, it's really hard to find just good, quick, concise pieces of video on linemen. So, mid-round, you're looking at guys that probably will be able to stay on the team for their whole contracts. It's just wondering if either of them will ever be able to work their way into the starting lineup and see. I like shooting for a lineman in the mid-rounds because you've got to be really certain on a lineman to go like first round on him or even second round. And then usually 6th, 7th, or 5th round, late round linemen you don't see hit very often. But mid-round linemen, I feel like that's a sweet spot to try to hit with drafting linemen. So I like that they picked two guards here to try to improve their guard position. And next guy up to talk about, Quintez Cephas. He's a great jump ball guy. And he really is in all other regards. Like, he excels in the jump ball game, but in all other regards, he's pretty balanced overall. And then I just want to say that I obviously didn't watch a ton of receiver stuff before the draft, but wow, they were not kidding when they were saying this is a deep receiver draft. it's crazy that they've got guys going this late that seemingly have this much talent, or at least have highlight reels like this that I'm like, holy cow, any other year I would think this guy would be like at least a third round pick. There were just so many good receivers this year. Jason Huntley is a running back. He feels just like Tariq Cohen, and since I've mentioned it what feels like 100 times now, I will talk about the fact that in the kick return department, he was very good in college, and he had kick return touchdowns. And I don't know why, but I can't get over the fact of that one study I heard about, that if you have a kick return touchdown in college, you're going to be so much better of a professional football player. So, hey, maybe he'll turn into something. Because him and DeAndre Swift, really, I'm just talking about DeAndre Swift here, but ever since I've been alive, the Lions have literally never had a running back that has made me go, oh, wow, I'd be intimidated if they ran the ball. And I shouldn't use the word intimidated, because then I'm like, oh, it can only be a power back. No, like, I mean, the Lions have never even had a running back in the backfield that has ever made a defense worried, like, oh my gosh, this guy could make a big play here. It just didn't the entire time I've been alive. It's seemingly never happened. So I like them drafting 2 running backs here, because even the guys that they've got now who are seemingly okay players at the running back position, they just haven't gotten like any production out of anyone. The Lions just need to get like this monkey off their back that they have not been able to have a running back do anything in so long, because it's crazy. 2 more guys to go over through the drafted players. John Penisini, he's a defensive tackle. Not too exciting to watch, obviously. He's a defensive tackle. I don't expect much out of him. But then last guy they drafted, Jayshon Cornell, is a defensive end from Ohio State University. And he's got to be pretty good just off the fact that he's playing defensive end at Ohio State. He's playing opposite Chase Young, obviously. And from what I saw, he looked like a pretty good player. Something made him not go until the 7th round. I just don't know what it is. Now, let's talk about who they've got to play. Oh boy. I'm so disappointed to do this now, because beforehand I was like, oh, I'll probably predict him a pretty good record. And now I'm looking at the team and I'm like, the team's not that good. And I'm sorry, Lions fans, it's just not. Like I said, oh, I can't say his name because I said I wouldn't anymore. That quarterback of yours will really help your team out. Wink, wink. But your team's pretty bad, so he's helping something that's going to be bad. All right, here we go. Let's talk about the opponents. All right, divisional opponents: Bears, Packers, Vikings. To be completely honest with you, with what I saw from the Bears, and then what I know the Packers and Vikings also have, I want to say that I'm thinking 0-6, but I'm not going to go 0-6 in the division, because it is in the division and crazy things happen in the division. I think their talent is so much worse than every other team in the division, honestly. I'm thinking more of like 1-5 in the division, not 0-6. I'll give them 1-5 because division games are weird, and you can get one that even if one team is better and they're hot, it's a divisional game, and you can throw everything out of the window when division rivals play, except for the Bills and the Patriots. The Patriots will win 99.9% of the time. Okay, now 1-5. After talking about the divisional opponents, who do they play at home? They play the New Orleans Saints, Indianapolis Colts, Washington Football Team, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Houston Texans. The Washington Football Team is bad. I like the Lions' chances beating them, especially with Stafford. I think they could actually win big in that game, potentially. 2-5 there. Then they got to play the Saints and the Colts at home. Saints tough game there. 2-6 probably. Colts, Lions are the home team. They could steal one from the Colts there. That'll put them at 3-6. Now, the last two teams are the Buccaneers and the Texans. Texans have got weapons all over their offense. Then their defense is fairly solid too. And then the Buccaneers obviously have all that loaded up talent. And I think those are 2 losses there as well. So after that sits us at 3-8 before we even talk about the away opponents. So they're going to go to Atlanta and to Carolina. Let's talk about these 2 teams first. I think the Falcons are going to be much improved. I think they're probably going to lose to the Falcons, but I also think the Panthers game is kind of tough. So the Panthers game, I'm saying tough as in hard to predict. I feel like these games will fall 50-50. They'll split those 2 games because neither of those teams are really dominant, but I don't think either of those teams are very bad. So I'll give them a 1-1 record there. And then going to Jacksonville, I'd actually say they can win. They got to go to Jacksonville, and I think they can win there. So that gives them 5 wins, but sadly they have 2 games left that I really don't think they can win either. They're going to have to go to Tennessee, and they're going to have to go to Arizona. Once again, I think Arizona's much improved, and Tennessee proved that they're a very good team last season, ending up in the AFC Championship game. So I think I'm only seeing 5 wins here for the Lions. They could potentially even get it up to 7. But like I said, with the Stafford thing, they won 3 games last year. I'm just boosting them to 5 wins this year purely because Stafford is good. Because the rest of the team, a lot of change up. I'm not seeing a ton. It's weird. I mean, some positions are so loaded for them. It seems like the D-line is pretty solid. I mean, you're going to have Okudah and Trufant at the cornerback positions, but then the linebackers and safeties are seemingly nameless. While you look at the offense and you go, holy cow, you've got Stafford, you've got Galladay, you've got Marvin Jones, you've got Danny Amendola. How's this passing game not going to be great? The offensive line is pretty questionable. It's like, what's going on here? Not very many guys that I can even name for starters. I mean, I really don't know. Obviously tried to fill in some holes in free agency in the draft, but I don't know. They just released Rick Wagner. Rick Wagner would have been the guy that I would have been most confident in saying, yeah, that guy's on the offensive line. So it's just they've got really good parts of the team and then just such bad parts of the team at the same time. They're such a weird team to discuss. And like I said, I'm just sitting at 5-11 purely because of how lacking some positions are in talent. Really like to see a more balanced roster overall from these guys. Yeah, I guess that's where I'll leave it. 5-11 for the Detroit Lions in 2020 is my prediction. So, if you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching. 2020 president candidate.